Tyson Fury is just such a big personality in the sport. You know, I don't know how many people believed that he was going to hang them up when he said he was going to. And now, per your Twitter feed and some reporting from others, he's calling out Anthony Joshua, basically trying, I think, to organize something in December. What do you make of that?
Well, it was interesting because when I had arrived in Saudi Arabia for, Usyk Joshua's rematch, Tyson had just announced that he actually vacated the Ring magazine title. And that made it a little bit more real. Like, it made it feel a little more real that he was talking about retirement, because, you think if he starts vacating these titles, then surely he has to be really considering retirement. But there was always, I would say, an 85% chance in the back of my mind that he was never retiring. And the only reason I even give that 15% was because he vacated the belt. But I actually I know Tyson very well. I don't see Tyson retiring before he can go down, arguably, as the best of our era. And the only way that he would be able to cement that is through having the undisputed title. And I'm not quite sure what's going on with the Usyk fight and why we're not getting the undisputed fight as opposed to him fighting Joshua. I do understand that the Joshua fight is, it's still a big draw because it's a big domestic fight. And I know that the British fans would love that. But ultimately, we do want to see the undisputed. So I don't know if that's coming down to money or what's happening, but I do look forward to asking Tyson about that when I go to England in a few weeks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about how Usyk fits into all this. I mean, from what I read and what I saw from what you've been putting out there, it seems like there's maybe a little bit of pushback on his end. I mean, that he might be a little bit hesitant to lean into a potential meeting before the end of the year with Fury. Does that feel right? I mean, it does seem like there is a little bit of resistance coming from somewhere.
Well, the resistance is definitely coming from somewhere, but either side is always going to point the finger at the other. That's just how this works. So I've learned to never really believe fully 100% what one side in particular is saying, because just like we had this whole mess back in, what was it, like 4 years ago or so, when Joshua and Wilder were supposed to be fighting. And I swear to you, if you heard both sides, you were convinced by both sides, but somebody is exaggerating or fabricating somewhere along the lines, because they were saying two completely different stories. So I actually don't know what's going on. It's interesting because when I saw that Tyson was calling out Anthony Joshua, my first thought was, well, what happened with Usyk? Like, I don't get it. Like, why, if we're this close to the undisputed fight, why are we not taking it? So the pushback hasn't been made too clear as to who is pushing back. I don't know if it's coming down to money. I do know that Tyson at one point said, the only way I'm coming out of retirement to fight Oleksandr Usyk is if I'm paid $500 million. Maybe that's it. Maybe he feels like if he's going to fight for the undisputed title, the money needs to be super big. But I also don't understand, because, you're fighting Anthony Joshua. I get that it's still a big number, but you're still also returning to fight another person. So I'm curious to know. I actually don't have any information regarding that, because I'm not really getting any clear information on that. So I'm sure at some point along the next few weeks, we're going to hear a little bit more about it.
Do you think fans would want that big domestic fight that you point to with an Anthony Joshua and a Tyson Fury, or is it a bigger draw to have that international crowd and feel, the international fan base is so rabid? I mean, what do you think the boxing world, so to speak, would prefer?
In my honest opinion, it's definitely going to be Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, because it was always supposed to be that. In the eyes of the British public, it was always supposed to come down to that for the undisputed. So when Usyk shocked the world by beating Anthony Joshua, he literally threw a wrench and changed the entire landscape of the heavyweight scene. I mean, it was done. It was like, what just happened? Like, how did this just happen? So, and that's not to dismiss Usyk. It's just that, you know, I think most people expected Joshua to win just due to his size. I mean, when people saw it, they were like, there's no way this smaller guy is going to come in and beat Anthony Joshua. And if anyone says otherwise, they're lying. No one gave Usyk, everyone I sat next to, every press member I spoke to was like, Joshua should win this. They said he should. But, you know, as you know, skills mean more than size. Skills mean more than, he was the more popular one. Most people tend to sway towards the more popular opponent. But yeah, it's interesting to see how it all kind of went down. So my answer to your question is absolutely they want to see this. Absolutely the British public wants to see Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. Now, there is always going to be that little piece missing, which is the titles that come on the line with it. But I think with them, when it's that big, I don't think it really matters anymore.